So, I started JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and I was like,
I'm not gay. I'm not gay. It was a joke, guys. Come on. I'm not gay.
So for the last few months, I've been bombarded by JoJo memes. And that's par for the course when it comes to JoJo. But it turned me off from the series completely. I was positively refusing to even give JoJo's a chance.
No!
Jojo.
I suppose that's the overexposure effect, but I digress. It wasn't until even more of my friends started recommending me JoJo that I sat down and watched the first episode. And I've got to say, now I'm hooked. To call JoJo Bizarre is like calling Dio a dick, which is undoubtedly common knowledge. Let's just say it's been a long time since I've seen scenes such as this in an anime. This, however, is the brilliance of JoJo. It so uniquely blends together surrealist comedy into its narrative with such high class, it's unreal. The series does not take itself seriously when it needs to, but that's not to say it always doesn't, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's still plenty of heart and emotion to be found in its roots. That's why today I'd like to recommend the show and give some of my first impressions of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Part 1 of JoJo is actually relatively short, and it's the make or break part of the series for most people. When I first started watching JoJo's, I assumed the entire first part would take up the whole of 26 episodes. But boy was I wrong. The pacing is very fast, almost chaotic, but with the time allotted for each episode, the show uses every second marvelously. It doesn't take long at all to get invested. Hell, I knew the show was going to be damn good once I got to this one scene alone. That's right, only a few minutes in and we're introduced to the primary antagonist. Now, this asshole has been memed to death, but at the time, I had no clue of how serious everyone was about Dio. The second he kicked Danny, I nearly had a fucking stroke. Altogether, the first 3 episodes of JoJo serve to tell a small story, a mini-arc if you will. It sets up everything perfectly, allowing enough time with the characters to get invested. It's also in this that we get to the bizarre parts of JoJo's. I won't lie, I spit out my damn drink when they mentioned Jack the Ripper for the first time. And I thought that was weird. That really was just the beginning of my downward spiral into the JoJo trash bin that I'm in.
All the girls are on me.
To circumvent back on the topic, let's talk about Jonathan, our main character himself. Jonathan Joestar is a part of a very wealthy family, the Joestar family. Living in England in the 19th century, everything is all hunky-dory. Did I forget to mention that Jonathan's mother died in an accident where he was really young and a tycoon was about to steal money off of Jonathan's father? No, well, I did now. That man is a father too. Oh, and he accidentally bumps into a mythical stone mask that has the power to turn people into immortal vampires, but that's not that important right now. Like all Brandos, Dio's father was a total brick, enlisting his son to steal the Joestar fortune and covet it for himself. Too bad he died, though. So, Dio is after Jonathan's wealth, and with it becomes a total dillweed, constantly harassing him along the way. The man even steals the first kiss of Jonathan's girl. Not cool, Dio. If it's one thing that I hate more than ugly bastards, it's the cuck that steals a good guy's girl. Damn it, anime, what are you doing? Okay, so, we've established that Jonathan is the ultimate cuck, and Dio is a salt mine. What's next? Well, I'm glad you asked, YouTube viewer. Let's talk about the opening. Before I started JoJo, I decided to watch the opening, and it went a little something like this. Sono Chino Sadame is a good example of how to use 3D animation effectively. Keep in mind, this came out in 2012. It's almost like they had competent directors and animators. The whole point of the opening is to sell the comic book vibe of JoJo's. The flow is wacky and things happen on screen a mile a minute. The colors too are used very effectively, allowing the viewer to key in on tone shifts and character morality. The song is especially good too. Never have I wanted to be a macho man more than after singing Sono Chino Sadame. Oh, and the intro spoils the entire first arc, so there's that. Speaking of good animation, Jojo has it in spades. The use of colors and contrasts really enhances each scene and keeps every episode fresh, both highlighting characters and tension in one stylized swoop. Okay, but let's get back on track. After Dio cucks Jonathan, everything goes to shit. The man has become an Abercrombie and Fitch reject with a boatload of power. How the hell is anyone supposed to counter such a being? Well, I'm glad you asked, because our mustachioed Mario brother is ready to teach us about this series' power system. Let's just hope it can stand on its own throughout the series. So, there's a magical energy superpower called Hammond. Cool, right? Well, you better have better lungs than your local college dropout suddenly addicted to tobacco, because you'll be needing nice big air sacs. Oh, and if you have lung cancer, well, I guess you're screwed. So, with our blood-breathing power, we can successfully attempt Frogicide. Watch out, Froppy. Now, we've got our squad featuring Jonathan, Mario, and Speed Exposition. Together, they set off on a bizarre adventure to defeat Dio. Or so you might think. At this point, the show becomes a bit formulaic for the next couple of episodes, but it's still rather entertaining. After all, you get scenes like this.
Hey, baby!
Oh, that's right, I forgot to mention that Dio is still a total prick. The guy freezes my man lead Blimp's blood. Not cool, Dio. So Dio now has control of two historic figures, this guy with hair and some tall dude. The backstory being the most pivotal moment of the show, of course. Speed Racer exposits some random kid watches, and Mr. Italian Man lets Jonathan take control. Using Hydro Pump, Jonathan takes care of the strong man, allowing him to regain his humanity. He even gives Jonathan a magic item, dubbed the pluck sort of luck. Well, now that Jojo is He-Man himself, it's time to take care of Mr. Bush. But wait, it's time to make use of the Joestar technique. What is said technique? While running away, of course. By creating a floating leaf kite, the squad manages to escape, directly into another dangerous area. Oh, and fun fact, we even get to see a kid's ass in this episode. The more you know, my friends. Using good deductive reasoning, Jojo finds himself locked into a trap. This time he's pitted into a death battle by wagering who dies of autoerotic asphyxiation first. The match gets so intense that Poco pisses his pants. Freaking how terrifying. In order to save Jonathan from his worst case of blue balls yet, Poco musters up his courage and uses his tiny Shota body to squeeze into some wall cracks. To get serious for a moment, his backstory here is one of the first times that JoJo's gives depths to very minor characters. It's beautiful and well told, and it really gets you rooting for the little guy. Let it be known that character developments such as these run wild throughout the later parts of JoJo's, and it's quite the spectacle. So the gate is open, and it's time to rescue Jonathan. Let's go! Yeah, this is where the to-be-continued meme comes into play. I had admittedly known for a while that this too was a JoJo's reference, but hearing it firsthand at such a crucial moment, especially with Zeppelin being a badass, was just fantastic. The song Roundabout is damn good, having one of my favorite bass lines and guitar chords I've heard in an older song. So, in the next episode, we come across Zeppelin's death, which is very tragic. Sure, it came as no surprise, as the previous episode raised his death flag to innumerable heights, but it still came across as sad. The man literally gets fucking ripped in half. Now, if that isn't metal as fuck, I'm not sure what is. With the power of his fallen comrade, Jonathan defeats Hairboy and says one final goodbye to Zeppelin. Not before we get this glorious scene. I've got to say, I love this meta commentary by Araki. Zeppelin practically has an aneurysm at the thought of Jonathan not knowing how to continue is damn hilarious. With that, the gang sets off to defeat Dio, hopefully for real this time. Along the way, we meet Straightso, who's a good guy probably. Oh, and some other guy, but he's pretty forgettable. He does have a unique attack though. This one increases his gay levels by 10%. Does anyone need more proof that Dio's a cunt? Well, how about this? Yes, you saw that right. It's like Jojo went full berserk and decided to incorporate extremely dark material in its place. Yeah, Mother did just turn into a vampire and eat her infant son alive as Dio watched and scoffed in the background. That shit seriously gets me every time. Not cool, Dio. So the squad ends up traveling to Dio's manor, and it's good, right? Well, Jojo's takes the pages from Berserk and has a heroine rescued by Jojo in the gang. Well, that went a lot differently than I thought. Huh. Well, we do get some really cool fight scenes using Hammer, and that's all fine, and wait, we're fighting Dio already? Damn, the pacing here is really turning itself up to 11. I mean, to speed things along here, Joseph defeats Dio already, and it's a bit anticlimactic, but I'm sure he'll be back. Probably standing stronger than ever. So in the next episode, some loose ends are tied up. Speedwagon destroys the mask, and Jojo gets giggity with Arena. So all in all, it's a pretty exciting conclusion to this arc. But then wait, did Dio write his name on his own coffin? What a Chad! Like, what else screams, hey, I Dio, the big bad, I'm probably in here? Fucking prick. Continuing on, Jonathan and Aaron are on a cruise preparing for the honeymoon. After all, they fucking. And then this happened. Yeah, give this man a damn break already. Oh, and remember this? Yeah, and I thought Rocky forgot shit. But this doesn't bode well. Dio's back and he's... No way. You're telling me that Futurama is a JoJo's reference? What is my life? Dio's inside a goddamn jar and suddenly has a raging boner for Jonathan. I mean, who wouldn't? And the only way to continue is for Dio to go inside Jonathan. Pause. Jonathan actually gets his carotid severed after, like, how many attempts? And at this point, it's hard to tell whether or not he's gonna get through this. Sure, JoJo's characters are tougher than LGBT stans, but I digress. The point is, he's dying. Not before this happens, though. Here we have one of the most jaw-dropping moments I've seen in, well, any show. Jonathan dies cradling Dio in his arms, finally acknowledging him as his brother. And at first, I didn't believe it. But as soon as the text appeared, my eyes widened. Yes, this actually happened. And honestly, it's cathartic. Everything about this first arc suddenly clicks. This is simply the beginning, and the stories that are to be told will be grand and even more full of spectacle. Rest in peace, Jonathan Joestar. You were an amazing man. All in all, I believe JoJo Part 1 Phantom Blood to be a unique yet fresh take in the medium. Given that this story debuted in the mid-80s, it's rather respectable how many risks Araki took to give this series its unique style. Keeping the story for mature audiences, having a non-Japanese man as the protagonist, and then having him die very shortly was just ballsy. I mean, I'm still in disbelief. While it's very flawed, I think Part 1 is a perfect for what it set out to do. Araki was still finding his way to tell a story, and by setting up a world this bizarre so quickly, it's commendable. It's rather fascinating, really. The future parts will only build upon Part 1's legacy, and that in itself is astonishing. What a unique flair, but so unique it could only be known as JoJo. I'm thankful I was able to watch this masterful series. It's gonna stand the test of time for a long time.